I need to say that we are going to suspend voting with iPads and we're going to do voice votes. So that's because we do not have someone to manage these. Okay. The first thing is approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion? Eden, and a second. Member Rosenbaum. All right. Are there any additions or corrections to the April 28th minutes? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Okay, on to informational items, and we will begin with the monthly financial report.
Good afternoon. We have the first quarter of 2026 in your packet. So we should be about 25% of the way through the fiscal year. So for total county revenues, we are at 18.2%, and that is actually the same as the expenses. So we are matching. And then in general fund, we're at 20.8%. And for the expenses in general fund, we're at 19.7%. So always in the first quarter, it seems a little alarming that our revenues are below that 25%, but we have the property taxes that will not come in until June, so that distorts it. And then we also have fines for property taxes that also get received in period 3, along with a couple of charges for services. So it will continuously be a little bit below what that 25% is. So when the expenses are below that expected rate, it's always good, but the revenues, if you have concern, that is why. Just another highlight this month, and I didn't go back, but we actually are above budget expectations for all of our state shared revenues. So that's the income tax, all of the sales taxes, so the supplemental, regular sales tax, public facility sales tax, and public safety, along with the PPRT. So, each year when we do the budget, we try to do our best estimate, realistic, but also conservative. So this year we are trending positive. So that is good for the budget. For general fund, I looked at the charges for services, and those are below. But if I take out, again, a couple of the items that we received in period 13, plus we have a one-time reconstruction reimbursable that will be 100%. So if I back those out, the charges for services through period 3 is actually about 24.3%. So under, but closer to that 25%. The other thing I want to highlight on the expense side is that each year in this first quarter, it looks like the interfund department charges are higher, and that is because we pay our liability insurance in January, so that always inflates that number. So that might look alarming, but it will flatten out as the year progresses. And then the election commission, they had a spring election, so those expenses are usually higher than would be expected for the rest of the year. All of our funds are within fund balance policy, except for 2 of them. One I did not call out, and I apologize for that. The first one is the Wind Energy Fund. We do get revenues to offset the expenses, so those revenues will be recorded and be offset. And we do have funds received in advance of expenses, so we should be good for hopefully the next several months, if not the rest of the fiscal year. And then the Care and Treatment Fund, that is funded by interest, property taxes, and PPRT. So until the property taxes come in, that will go a little bit low, but once property taxes come in, that will go back above fund balance policy. So those are just the few highlights I have, since first quarter is a little bit more quiet. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions? Member Renault.
Thank you. For PPRT, I know for a couple years they over allotted, and now we've had 3 years of kind of making up for that. Do we have any idea if that will level out, like come back up a little bit?
PBRT is always all over the range. The last IML had a prediction in the February newsletter. It's been some time that I read that, but I can have a better report for you later this month when I come back for the period 4.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? I have one question. In terms of the charges for services, I know those are under, and I thought it was like 200,000. Am I right? What I'm curious about is, at the end of 2025, what was the total amount that we were under budget for charges for services
For just general fund or county as the whole?
as a whole?
Okay. That number would be in a chart that I do not have in front of me. Because I have the comparative data for general fund, but I do not
Well,
have
maybe,
it.
well, just tell me about the general fund then.
Okay. So it looks like last year, the general fund budget and how we do this monthly financial report, this data might not be 100% because I have the revised budget through period 3. So the revised budget through period 3, so I'm not sure what changes would have happened from period 4 to the end of the year. We had 10.5 million budgeted, and we had an unaudited receipt of 10.9 million. So what was the budget as of period 3 was, it looks like we were over, but I believe that there was other changes. I would have to, again, do a deeper dive.
Well, I mean, I guess the reason I'm asking the question is that if that's what the first quarter is, taking that all the way to the end of the year, that's going to be $800,000. That's
Okay. So last year we did have the charges for services were under budget, and that was primarily due to the federal detention services. And then we had a construction project that we budgeted at, I think it was like 1.2, and we only had about 75% of that. And then we had reduced fees in the criminal cases. That has been a continuous trend. So for this year, I project that for federal detention, I did look at that. I don't think I said anything about it, but to date for federal detention, we're about 91.4% of what we were last year. So I think the federal detention is still trending lower. So
okay.
that will impact charges for services. The construction project will probably also impact it. I'm not sure where that is at. And yeah, so
Well, it's just something I wanted to call attention to because, $800,000 shortfall
right,
is
it's
because
pretty large.
clearly the revenue needs to balance the expenditures. So that seems like a lot.
Yeah. I will also next month, if it would be okay with you, to do a little bit better of a dive on the charges for services, so I have a little bit more data.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. All right, if there aren't any other questions, then we'll move along to the Long-Term Care Services Fund.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The Long-Term Care Services Fund, the ending fund balance reserve amount at the end of March was about $3.7 million. Interest to date is $231,000, and the county is still on track to meet that 11.075 million balance payoff in 2032.
Okay, are there questions? All right, thank you. And then the accounts payable review.
Yes. In your packet are quite a few pages of the detail for accounts payable, employee reimbursements, and purchase card activity for the month of April. The total payout was $5.87 million. And if you have questions on any specific transactions, I'm happy to help try to answer those for you.
Questions? Okay. We will receive and file those. Peoria, the capital projects, funding sources, and progress.
Yes, thank you. So also in your packet, and if you were at infrastructure yesterday, there are a few projects that are wrapping up with final payments that will be moved to the completed list next month. And there are quite a few projects still in progress. So we have a very busy year. If you have any questions on specific ones, I can try to answer those for you.
Questions? Okay. Thank you, but stay right there because we're at your resolution.
Yeah.
So we have two resolutions. One is a Peoria County travel policy revision, and that is, I need a motion for that, please. Member Duncan, Member Phelan.
Okay, so we came to committee with an informational item in April. I'm sure you'll recall, just to update and kind of streamline the travel policy of the county. It was originally run through the auditor's office. Since that office no longer exists, the finance department is taking this on. And it was also housed in two different locations, one in the auditor's policy and in the personnel policy. So this is the intention to merge those two documents into one document and update them to reflect best practices, things that we feel would be the best for the county and for individuals traveling on behalf of the county for business. So we just wanted to add some clarifying points as well. Once the final policy is passed, the finance department will hold trainings for individuals. There was also a discussion of having individuals sign off on a document saying that they understand what the policy is prior to travel. So we'll work on something for that and a new document that will make it very easy and clear for them to submit their travel reimbursements and for the staff to analyze them. Since last month's meeting, there were two adjustments made to the policy. One edit was at the suggestion of a committee member in section B2D.1, and it was just removing discretionary wording on good judgment because that's depends on the individual, which is a very great point. And then the second one was something that we had inadvertently excluded from the original draft in section B2F.2E, and that was wording that specifies requirements for individuals that are purchasing meals not while traveling. So if they are doing a department meeting or something like that, and it requires the business purpose, the attendees' names, and that type of thing. So those are the only two changes from last month's policy.
Are there questions? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Member Daly.
Yes.
I tried to get a question and it was too late, and I'm fine with that. But I would like to make a comment specifically on the tips at a maximum of 20%. I know very frequently when you make a transaction now, a tip is requested, and that could be if you're ordering a meal standing up, which I don't think is a transactional level that we should be tipping at. So I don't know if there could be language incorporated when a tip is actually should be paid.
That's a good point because it goes along with the good judgment. Like if you're at McDonald's, you don't tip, but there's an option to do that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Phelan. Okay, next we have the resolution for purchase cards, petty cash, investment policy proposals. And I don't see the treasurer. Do I have a motion? Member Rosenbaum and Member Kelch.
I could take it, but Julie's going across the hall to see if
Oh, okay.
Treasurer Martin is. I'm happy to help if
Okay,
I did help write the AB, so the briefing.
all right.
So this is just an update to, the county does have an existing purchase card policy, petty cash policy is, okay, and an investment policy. She said that Treasurer Martin is coming, so
Okay,
depends on for him.
yes, thank you.
Sorry about
I
that.
assume you're busy taking in property taxes.
I was taking a nap, but thanks for waking me up.
So we are at the resolution for the purchase cards, petty cash, and investments.
Yes, so took a few board members reached out and added a couple things or wanted some things to be modified or looked at. I did it. I made a couple small changes. Nothing bigger from the last time that I presented to you guys. So, I mean, if anybody has any questions, I think it just kind of aligns with where we need to be with the P cards and investment policy, and it follows the guidelines of what the state has.
Are there questions on any of these three policies? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for doing these.
Thank you. Sorry, I was tied up.
Is there any public comment? Miscellaneous? Committee is adjourned.